What's up everyone, how's it going? This is Waj, and in this video we'll be doing a direct head-to-head specification comparison between two very similar smartphones. We're talking about the Samsung Galaxy S6 versus the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. Now, they're pretty much identical in a lot of different ways, but there are some subtle differences between the two. Certainly the Edge has that physical distinction of having the edge curved on both sides of the display, which is different from the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge that we saw earlier a couple of months ago. But specifically what I want to determine is whether you should go for the standard Samsung Galaxy S6 or go for the Edge edition. And I'll show you the advantages and disadvantages of having the Edge and whether you should go for it or not. So if you're interested in this, let's get right into my specification comparison. Now, the first thing we'll talk about is the physical differences between the two. Now, certainly straight off the bat, the Edge has that curved display. Now, the benefits of the curve is certainly aesthetic. I think it looks a little bit better than the standard Galaxy S6. Additionally, with that curved edge around it, swiping between different applications and things like that is going to give you a pretty interesting sensation. But interestingly, the Samsung Galaxy Edge 6 is not going to have a separate display on the edge portion of the screen like we've seen in the Note Edge. It's basically going to be incorporated in the Quad HD display, and there's really no separate screen or anything like that. You'll still have notifications and things like that where they'll pop up on the edge, and there'll be some clever software tricks where basically you can swipe in between your favorite contacts and things like that. There's quite a bit of functionality with that Edge, but again, how useful it is, I'm not sure until I have it, and using it on a day-to-day basis, I can tell you whether that Edge notification system or any of the external features of the Edge will be useful. Now, physically speaking, the Samsung Galaxy S6 is slightly taller and slightly wider than the Edge model, but in terms of the overall thickness, the Edge is just a tiny bit thicker at 7 millimeters, or about 6.8 millimeters, and in terms of weight, funny enough, the Edge is actually lighter at 132 grams versus 138 grams on the Samsung Galaxy S6. They both have Gorilla Glass 4 on the front and back of the device, so that's going to be great in terms of durability and overall scratch resistance, but it's going to definitely be a fingerprint magnet, and both devices are going to look pretty shiny when it comes to the overall fit and finish. Now, the displays on both these two phones are identical, as you would imagine, so they both have a Super AMOLED display with a Quad HD resolution, 16 million colors in terms of overall color reproduction, great overall blacks, and really quite vibrant whites. The maximum brightness on both of these phones are going to be quite a bit when it comes to LED technology. It's certainly going to match anything that has an LED backlit display. Now, physically speaking, since we have a curved display on the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, it's going to give you the impression that it's actually a larger screen than the standard model, but in actual fact they're identical. Additionally, when it comes to watching videos and stuff, you're going to have basically the edges curved around the display, which will give you perhaps some distortion, but I don't think it'll impact the viewing quality too much, and it shouldn't really affect the experience on viewing the screen on an everyday usable basis too much as well. Now, moving on, when taking a look at the internal specs, as you would imagine, again, identical. They're using the Exynos 7420 processor. This is an 8-core chip, and we have 3 gigabytes of RAM on both models, as you would expect. Now, one of the slight disadvantages this time around on the new Samsung Galaxy S lineup of phones, we have no user expandable memory. So no SD expansion slot. So that means you're going to have to select from the 32, 64, and 128 gigabyte models to see which memory capacity best fits your needs. Now, moving on in terms of cameras, both phones are going to have 16 megapixel rear-facing cameras. Both are going to be protruding quite a bit, which is kind of unfortunate, but a caveat of having such a small and thin and light phone. In terms of the overall image quality, they've updated the optics to a f1.9 aperture lens, so that's going to be better in terms of low light and overall shallow depth of field and things like that, as much as you can get on a small sensor camera. Additionally, we're going to have optical stabilization systems on both smartphones, and they're going to have full 4K capabilities. In terms of the front-facing side, we have 5 megapixel stills with 1080p video, a very wide field of view as well, so very similar quality, I would imagine, to the Samsung Galaxy Note 4. Now, the last thing that we'll talk about is the battery. Now, in terms of the battery capacity itself, there is a difference between the two. Basically, we have 50 more milliamp hours on the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge compared to the 2550 milliamp hour battery we have on the standard model. Now, in most cases, I don't think 50 milliamp hours will give you too much of an advantage, maybe a couple of more minutes. They both have a fast charging mode, which is quite fantastic, and they both have wireless charging capabilities certified for both PMA and a Qi wireless charging pad. So that's quite fantastic. But in terms of the overall battery performance, again, we're going to have to see how they do in real life circumstances. I don't know if the slightly larger battery on the Edge will have any kind of advantage, but we'll break it in after a couple of days. We'll have a good readout of what both smartphones can do. And certainly they have that larger overall resolution. Quad HD displays are not the most battery efficient displays, especially if you have a smaller overall battery. But with the new Exynos 7 420 processor, it should be a lot more power efficient than previous generations. So we should at least expect to get throughout the day, if not a day and a half on both smartphones. But again, we'll confirm it when we have both of the two smartphones on our hands. But really, other than that, that's really it. Now, we'll definitely have both phones on our hands once they get released, and hopefully they'll be released around the same time. I'm hoping that the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge will have just as the same release pattern as the standard model. Typically, the Note Edge was very limited in terms of its availability, and hopefully that will not be the case on the new model of the Edge. But again, stay tuned for our channel. That means make sure you're subscribed and give us a thumbs up if you like the video. And I've done a couple of other comparisons on our channel on the Samsung Galaxy S6 as well. So definitely check those out if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later. Take care.